Hey guys, it's Kai, an engineer here at Stan's. Today we're going to be talking about taping rims. So in a previous video, we talked about everything you need to know regarding rim tape and how to choose the right rim tape for your setup. So if you need help choosing rim tape, go back and watch that video. This one's going to be a tutorial on how to install the rim tape itself. So the couple things you'll need, obviously you need tape and you need a rim. And then a couple of helpful items. It helps to have a clean cloth, some isopropyl alcohol, scissors to cut the tape, and a pick to poke a hole for the valve. An add-on item that can be helpful is a micro abrasive like a Scotch-Brite pad. All right, so the first step, you want to take your micro abrasive, the Scotch-Brite pad or something similar, and you want to run it along the inside of your rim, so right on that tire facing contour. This does two things. It makes sure that the surface of the rim is smooth and clean, ready to move on in the process, and it also can get rid of small burrs on the spoke holes, which could lead to puncturing your tape. So once you go all the way around the rim with the micro abrasive, you need to clean off some of that dust and any other potential contaminants. So we recommend using isopropyl alcohol and your clean rag. So just make sure that your rag is nice and saturated with alcohol, and then do a really thorough job going around and cleaning off the surface of the rim. Any potential contaminants could make your taping process much more difficult. So a lot of people like to tape rims in a truing stand. Over the years here at Stan's, we've decided that that's not our favorite method. It's a really good way to set up the rim to clean it, so it's a good place to spin it around, get it nice and clean. But then once you're ready to actually begin the taping process, I take it out of the truing stand and I go and I sit in a chair. So the reason that I like to tape rims sitting in a chair is it kind of gives you three hands. So when you're trying to tape a rim, you're typically pulling the tape with one hand, trying to hold the rim in place with the other, and you're trying to ease the tape into the drop channel as you're going across. So if you have the chair, you can hold the rim with your feet and you can let the rim hit the back of the chair, keeping it from rotating so the rim is stabilized with no hands. And then you can use your hands to pull the tape really hard and make sure that it's going into the drop channel nicely. When I start taping a rim, I go 2 spokes away from the valve hole. So find your spot that you want to start, get your tape, and I think it's worthwhile to get this first section of tape to sit down really nicely. It just makes the rest of the process a little bit easier. So definitely take your time trying to get the tape to lay in there nice and even and get it to fully adhere. Stan's yellow tape is a pressure sensitive adhesive, so you have to work it a little bit. You have to push the tape into the rim to really get it to stick nicely. But if you get it laid in there and then you give it some good pressure, it should stick nice and smooth. All right, so once you have an inch or two laid down with your fingers, it's matching the shape of the rim pretty nicely. Grab your clean cloth, and you can use that to activate the pressure sensitive adhesive in Stan's yellow tape. This tape takes a decent amount of pressure to get it to really adhere to the rim. So make sure you work it in and get it stuck all the way down. Once that's looking nice and smooth, you can grab that section just to give a little extra support with your cloth. Unwind the tape a bit, and then you can pull pretty hard on the tape. You want to pull enough that you can feel a little bit of stretch in it. This helps to get the tape to stretch and match the contour of the rim. This really helps on asymmetric rims. The harder you pull, the less the tape's going to wander and the more that it'll lay into that nice drop channel. So as you go around, you're pulling hard on the tape. You're holding the rim with your feet and keeping it rested against the chair. And then as you're pulling, you're using the rag and your fingers to rest the tape into the drop channel and get it to nicely match that contour. You can tell if the tape is going down nicely if it looks nice and smooth and you can slightly see the spoke holes through the surface of the tape. If you can't see the spoke holes, try your best to push the tape a little bit harder and make sure that it's nicely lined up and all the way down to the drop channel. So once you make your way all the way around, I recommend going past the valve hole by another 2 spoke holes. So you have around 3 spoke holes of tape overlap. You want to make sure that that overlap is nice and smooth. You don't have big air bubbles in it. If the tape overlap has some inconsistencies, that can be a spot where sealant will start to creep in and cause your tape to delaminate. So yeah, Just make sure that you finish it up nice and smooth. Press on the tape really hard, try and get out all those bubbles and activate that pressure sensitive adhesive. Once you get the 3-spoke overlap, you come back and get your scissors and then, yeah, just cut off this section of tape. Some people do a diagonal, some people go straight across. I don't think it matters a whole lot. You can kind of go with either one. I'm just gonna go straight across on this one. That last little bit of tape, you need to make sure that that's also laid down really nicely. So again, come through with your rag. I start in the drop channel, put a lot of pressure on it, and then work my way out. Once you get your whole rim set up with that method, I would take the rag and go around and get out any air bubbles that you can. Make sure that you're pressing in the drop channel, on the bead seats, and any of the other contours that your rim may have. Just try and get everything stuck down as nice as you can, push out as many bubbles as you can. So once you go through and you try and push out all the air bubbles that you can, if there's a couple left over, that's not a huge deal. All of those little imperfections will go away once you inflate your tires. Inflating your tires puts all that air pressure on the tape, and that'll make it sit nice and smooth against your rim. So try and do the best job you can. It's never gonna look completely perfect. There'll be a couple of little bubbles, but those will come out in time. Sometimes when you're finishing up taping a rim, the very end of the tape won't stick down super nicely. The middle and the drop channel will have a little air gap. You wanna make sure that you get rid of that if you can. So if that doesn't go away by just pushing the tape down, if there's still a little section that's delaminating, a little tip that helps, if you peel up the tape and you pull it back like a ½ inch or an inch or so, that back section of tape has already stretched to match the drop channel. So you can just cut off the little ½ inch end and then push the end back down, and it should lay down a bit nicer. You wanna make sure that the end of your tape doesn't stick up at all so that sealant can't sneak underneath it. Once sealant starts to sneak under there, that can cause your tape to delaminate more and more. So the final step is poking a hole to put your valve through. So I'm gonna use a pick. You can use pretty much anything that's sharp. It's just, stabbing a small hole in the tape. The one thing that I would recommend avoiding is some people will put a slice in with a razor blade. Just don't put a slice in along the length of the rim. That can cause the tape to split and you can find leaks near your valve hole. So using something round and just piercing through is a good way to go about it. So even if that hole that you poked is a little bit smaller than the valve, it's not a huge deal. You can just shove the valve through and it'll match the size of the hole, and then you're good to go. So one final note, if you're having problems getting the tape to stick, there's a couple things that could be. Typically the rim is just not clean enough, or you're not pressing the tape enough to get the pressure sensitive adhesive to stick. Another thing that could affect it, some rims, they have the tire facing contour. They'll have different textures. Some are bead blasted and some aren't. So some will have that rough matte finish. Some will be like glossy, shiny finish. The rough matte finish is a little bit harder to clean because there's those little crevices that can hold grease and grime. It's also less surface area for the tape to stick to. So if you're taping on a matte, rough tire facing contour, that can make your process a little bit more difficult, and you might have to take a little bit more care pressing in the adhesive and ensuring that your rim is perfectly clean.